Plant-based breakfast sausage. Is there such a thing that doesn't just drip with fat? Yes, you have come to the right video. Are you missing a breakfast sandwich that tastes as good as the pre-vegan old days? We've got that too. We can make it into links, sausage links, or sausage patties. This recipe is easy, although it has several ingredients. I batch cook it, and I make patties, freeze it with the bun or the muffin and the plant-based cheese. All it takes is a few seconds in the microwave or the toaster oven, and we've got a low-fat, vegan, fast food breakfast. Welcome back to Comfort Food Farms, the plant-based home cooking channel. If this is your first time here, I'm Kari Greger. I'm glad you've joined us. Well, let's get into it.
You don't need to use whole walnuts, but I happen to have some on sale, and so I'm using whole walnuts instead of the pieces. We want to soak 1 cup of the walnuts in hot water for about 20 minutes. This is bulgur wheat. It is a cracked wheat, and the size is number 2. It's a particular size of the cracked pieces. This is the brand that I've been using, and it's very consistent. It's what gives our sausage the very nice texture of sausage. So we're going to put 1/2 cup of the bulgur wheat into a saucepan, and we're going to add 1 cup of water, 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of vegan Worcester sauce, 2 teaspoons of vegetable bouillon powder, this is the beef flavored kind, and 2 teaspoons of sugar. You can use sugar, agave, maple syrup, or any other sweetener that you want, or you don't have to include this at all. We're not trying to preserve this anywhere other than the freezer. This is the type of broth base that I'm using. It's totally vegan. I'll put a link in the description below. Stir this to combine and cook it on the stove until it cooks up like porridge. You'll have to stir it every once in a while and let it cook. Look at it. It does look like porridge, doesn't it? So you could put steel-cut oats in there instead. This is my little spin chopper. It's so convenient. Not such a big food processor to get out. I'll just take the guard off the blades. And now my walnuts have soaked, and I'm going to put them into the spin chopper along with some other ingredients that need to be minced up. We need 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 teaspoons of liquid smoke, 1.5 teaspoons of fennel seed, and 1/4 teaspoon of celery seed. Now we just put the lid on and pull the string. Just pull it several times and check to see how our mixture is coming along. You can put this into your food processor and pulse it. Every once in a while, scrape it down so that the mixture gets back into contact with the blades. That's looking pretty good. It starts looking like ground beef. Okay, now on to the black beans. I have 2 cans of black beans here, drained. Actually, these beans I cooked myself. I don't care if they're a little bit broken up because we're going to mash them up anyway. So I need 3 cups of cooked beans. We have 1.5 teaspoons of salt. You do not need to add this salt if you don't want to. You don't need to add any salt into these sausages. We like to have the salty taste. We have 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of seasoning salt, and 1 teaspoon of onion powder. Now more herbs. We have a tablespoon of Italian seasoning, a quarter teaspoon of smoked paprika. We have half a teaspoon of celery salt and half a teaspoon of sage. I'm going to use my pastry blender to combine these beans. I want to mash them, but not mash them so much that there are no little pieces visible. We don't want them pureed. So once again, if you have a food processor, you could put this into the food processor and just pulse it along until everything's incorporated. There, see? That's the sort of look that you want. I'm going to put it all into my Bosch mixer with the dough hook and combine these 3 different mixtures. First goes in the black bean, next goes in the bulgur wheat that's cooked, and then we have our walnut meat. Just let the dough hook do its job and mix everything together. Oh, that looks great. At this point, you can use this as a stuffing for buns, you know, to put inside like a pastry bun. Use a meat in the center or meat pies or whatever you want. You don't have to add the water and the thickener. It depends on what you want to use this for. I'm going to add the water because we are going to make this into patties or links. So you need 2 tablespoons of water. Next, I have a half cup of gluten, and I do not want to add all of it. I may not need it all. So I'm just going to put in a little bit at a time until we see how the dough reacts. Let the dough hook incorporate it, and I'm still getting some sticking on the sides, so I think I'm going to need all of it. So I'm going to put it all in there. I'm showing you so you know what it's supposed to look like. You can see it's cleaning off the sides of the mixture, is cleaning off the sides of the bowl. And there you go. You see how it kind of pulls apart? It'll take a little bit longer for the strands of gluten to develop. Now it's been sitting here for a little while, and watch, you can see the strings of gluten. It gives it a real meaty texture.
These plant-based sausages do not have a lot of gluten in them. There's mostly black beans in there. Gluten is the thickener that gives the meat texture to the sausage. Now, a word about gluten. Gluten has been processed out of the wheat kernel. It's part of the wheat kernel of the plant. It is the protein of the plant, and it's processed out and made into a flour, much like an all-purpose flour, but not like the enriched all-purpose flours, you know, that they put a bunch of stuff back in there to make up for what they took out. No, this is a more pure product. It is not a whole grain product like 100% whole wheat, however. And gluten is not the boogeyman food that so many diet books have made it out to be. Check out Dr. McDougall's video on gluten. I'll put the link in the description below. Now, if you are truly celiac or gluten intolerant, you will have to make a couple of substitutions in this recipe. You'll have to put in steel-cut oats instead of the bulgur wheat, and you'll have to use oat flour or chickpea flour, something like that, as the thickener. Now, please note that the substitutions will not result in the same meat texture as the sausages with the gluten in it. So when we put gluten in there, it's actually, together with the black beans, it's making this a very high protein sausage. Is that good information? Give us a like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Oh, and leave a comment. I'd like to know if you try this recipe and what you think of it.
I bought these English muffins. They are vegan English muffins. I was pretty excited when I found this brand at Sam's Club. Now I want to make sure I get the right size for the sausage patties. This biscuit cutter would be perfect for the size, except that I know that these sausage patties are going to shrink, so I need something slightly bigger than the bun I intend it to go into so that it allows for the shrinkage. We do not have any oil in this. There's a little bit of fat because of the walnuts, but there is no oil in it, and so when it cooks up, you're evaporating water off, and that causes some shrinkage. And I want to keep it moist because the water is the moisture in there, so I don't want to roll it out with flour. That's why I'm putting it between two plastic cutting boards. You can use foil or parchment paper or something like that to roll it between. You want to roll it to be about 1/3 of an inch thick because, as I said, it's going to shrink. It's very similar to making cutout cookies, but not exactly, because rather than expanding, I know these are going to shrink. Whenever I roll this out, it's always the edges always end up being a little flatter than the middle, so I sort of just push the edges in, and then this way with the rolling pin, though, we do have a relatively even surface for our sausage patties. Now I just cut out the sausage patties with this cup that I have decided to use. It works pretty slick. They're sticking a little bit to the cutting board, the plastic cutting board sheet. I know what I forgot to do. You can form these with your hands. Just make sure your hands are wet with water. And that's what I forgot to do. Usually I spray on water on the cutting board and then they come off much easier. Spray the bottom cutting board and the top cutting board with water, and that's a much better surface to roll the dough out on. It's kind of funny to refer to meat as dough, but that's what it is. The rolling pin helps us get it level. Ooh, look at that. See? Came off so easy. Practically clean. That's what the water did for us. Once again, the edges got flattened. Recycle those pieces. There. See how easily that comes off now? Because I put water on the bottom. I am putting these on a baking sheet that I have used some cooking spray on. Now, that is because I am going to be cooking them at 425. You can cook these at a lower temperature. You're just going to have to cook them longer. If you cook them at a lower temperature, you could use parchment or one of those silicone baking sheets. This goes in for 8 minutes, and I'm going to roll out the next batch while I'm waiting. 8 minutes, and then we're going to flip them over. The 425 is too hot for parchment paper. Your parchment paper will burn. So if you can do it at 400, you'd probably have to try it for 10 to 12 minutes per side. That's something you're just going to have to test out. I like doing it at the higher temperature because it gets the crispy outside without drying out the middle. It's all about preserving that moisture. We don't want to have a dry sausage. We want to have something that's moist. There. 8 minutes in, and you see, we're getting some shrinkage. And we turn them over, and look at, they're nicely brown on the underside, aren't they? Okay, back in the oven for another 8 minutes. Now look at these, aren't they lovely? See, they come out about 1/4 of an inch thick. And watch this, look at that. We've got chewy sausage and moist enough that in the middle that they just come apart. Here is my English muffin, and that is about perfect. See, it shrunk up enough so it goes inside the bun perfectly. Now I'm going to show you how I preserve these for the freezer. I've got my cheddar spread. I put some on each of the sausage patties, spread that out, wrap it in a little bit of wax paper, and put it between the sides of the bun. This way I can heat the bun and the sausage patty up separately. Then I slide this into a sandwich bag and zip it closed. I'll put several of these into a larger bag to contain them, and they go into the freezer. Actually, my English muffins were already frozen with the wax paper between the sides of the bun, and that was because I managed to get them fresh on sale, and I didn't want to have to struggle to get them apart when I wanted to put the sandwiches together. When this is reheated in the microwave, or I sometimes put the buns into the toaster oven to crisp them up a little bit, it just is a very fast food breakfast. I have lots of sausages here. I forgot to count how many I had. I think I've got I know it was over 2 dozen. It's probably about 30 or 34. I'm just going to freeze those so that we can have them reheated on the side of waffles or pancakes, or put together in another sandwich or wrap later. It's just wonderful to have these sausages on hand in the freezer anytime.
I know last time I promised that I was going to make a Mediterranean lentil soup, but we were out of sausage patties, so made the substitution. Anyway, doesn't that look good? Isn't that a good sandwich? And check out, there we go. We've got that gorgeous cheese and the sausage in there. Now on the side here, I have some potato wedges that have been air fried. They're delicious. Makes a great breakfast. Now that is what I like to have for breakfast. Excuse me. Maybe a little bit too much fennel seed. That's up to taste. That's still good. Very good. That plant-based cheddar spread on there makes a wonderful breakfast sandwich. Did you get some good information in this video? Please give me a thumbs up below. And while you're down there, I know I mentioned the Mediterranean soup last time, but I know next time I am going to be doing a plant-based mayonnaise that you can preserve in jars. So, while you're down there, click on the subscribe button and hit the bell so you will know when that recipe is posted. Hey, say hi below, give me a comment, and thank you for watching.